It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome. It's the Jill on Money Show, the program that helps take the mystery out of your financial life. I'm Jill Schlesinger. I'm the CBS News business analyst. I'm a certified financial planner, and I am here with Mark Talercio, my executive producer, who's also a certified financial planner, to help you make better financial decisions. All we ask you to do is go to our website, jillonmoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and check the little box if you would like to join us on the air live. It's as easy as that. Today, we're starting the program with Kay and Eric. They are in, I'm going to just even mask it even more because they were making a joke about that they live in a small place. They're in the mid-Atlantic. How about that? They are somewhere between Florida and Maine. There you go. So tell us what's going on. How can we help you out?
So thank you so much for launching our New Year's resolution for the next phase of what we're calling the FINE phase.
Nice.
So a little bit of background. Eric and I turned 54 this year. We're both professionals, a high-stress job, and I'm actually committed to the concept of FINE. There's some other things I'd like to do with my life experience and talent. And as we start looking at that transition, our final kid will be in college. We wanted to do a check because we don't want to do something dumb. Mm-hmm. And we have been really boring. You know, you tell us to save 30% of our net income and dollar cost average and put it in an index fund. Well, that's what we've done. And so now we want to kind of give you the snapshot and what do we measure now going forward that we're transitioning.
Okay, that's fantastic. So tell us about your income level. So you said you're both in high stress jobs. So let's start with you, Kay. How much do you earn?
About $225.
Wow. All right. And are you maxing out your retirement contribution?
Yes.
And are you doing the catch up also? So the extra money because you're over the age of 50?
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. How much money is in your retirement account?
So the 401ks total for Eric and myself, about $2.5 million.
Whoa. That's going far in the middle of the Atlantic coast. All right. And Eric is also maxing out his retirement, presumably. How much does Eric make?
$175.
Is there other money besides the retirement assets that you've socked away?
Yeah, so we have about $2.1 million in a brokerage account.
Mark is laughing. Do you hear him giggling? Okay, this is awesome.
Knowing where they live, they must live like royalty.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
We live well beneath our means. It's
obviously
that kind of place, and we're very blessed that way.
Also, we follow directions really well. We really have been saving and dollar cost averaging, and because we listen to your show, Jill, we've been socking away cash. So we have about $230,000 in cash.
Wow. All right. Well, you mentioned some kids. So how old are they, and where are they?
So they are 17, almost 18, and 19. So I have a sophomore in college and a high school senior.
Okay. And the sophomore in college, have you saved money for college, or are you paying through cash flow?
No. So we've saved it. We've got about $200 for each kid saved.
Whoa. Is that going to be more than you need? Are they going to, is sophomore in state school?
Yeah, she's in state school and probably looking at grad school. And the younger one has aspirations of becoming an orthodontist. So
wait a minute. Stop right there. Who has a child who wants to be an orthodontist? You must have had an amazing orthodonture experience if your kid wants to be one. I had a horrible one.
So I have to tell you, because that kid has had one of everything wrong with her teeth starting from the day she was born. Her philosophy is, I can guide anyone through it.
Oh, my God. I mean, okay.
Curious, what was your horrible orthodonture experience?
Oh, please. First of all, I sucked my thumb till I was very, too old. My teeth were buck, and they had those metal, horrible braces on me. I'm old, I'm older than you guys a little bit, but it was awful, painful fights with my parents about put your night brace on, put your retainer in. And it was just it was a point of contention. It's hysterical that I'm actually on in a profession where people care about your teeth. And by the way, I also got and I have a dental phobia because I also went to a dentist. I found this out recently that there's like a slew of dentists of a certain age in the New York metropolitan area that did quote unquote not believe in Novocaine. So I had all of my early fillings were done without Novocaine. Okay. So I am like completely fearful of anything around my mouth and teeth. So when I go to the dentist now and I'm getting just like a cleaning, I'm like, I need something. I need a topical. Like I get very nervous. I should probably take like Ativan because I have like an anxiety attack every time I go to the dentist. Okay. Let's forget about me. So all right, let's talk about the game plan and the timing of the game plan. So, Kay, when you say you're committed to financial independence, next endeavor, when do we want this to happen?
So I'm giving myself the next 11 to 12 months to really start focusing on what my next position would look like. Also because, again, we don't want to make dumb mistakes going forward if we're not saving as much or if we need to be diffusing the tax time bomb or all these things that we hear about that we know we need to do, but we don't really know the steps to address it. Mm-hmm. So I need to take a lot of varied experience, start focusing a search, a location, and just to throw a little bit of a wrinkle, there is a possibility we would want to geographically relocate, maybe not necessarily retire where we are right now.
Okay.
Maybe a slightly larger area, not big, but it would, because we do live in a low cost area, we would be assuming a cost, even though we paid, the house is paid for.
How much is it worth?
Probably about $230,000.
Are there pensions with these jobs?
Yes.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, tell us about the pensions.
So I have a residual government pension from a previous job that's probably going to be around $2,100 a month. And Eric is going to have two pensions. He's going to have a state pension and a federal pension. And his state pension right now is probably going to be about $1,500 a month. And you can explain your federal pension.
It depends on the years of service, but if I left at age 57, it would be about $1,500 a month. If I make it to age 60, it boosts all the way up to $3,000 a month.
Wow, that's a big difference. Let's see if you may not even need to. Okay, so today, under where we are today, living where you live, what do you think your expenses are?
So we spend about $10,000 a month.
Okay.
On everything.
Okay. And if you move to a different area, maybe that would be $12,000 a month. What do you think?
So we're actually grappling with that because right now a lot of what we spend a month is related to travel, sports, and stuff to do with the kids that we wouldn't necessarily pay for. Mm-hmm. And we're assuming that we're going to continue to spend the same because it'll be like dating with money this time. So we're kind of stuck at the 10,000. And what we thought we might do is have like that oh crap fund, like if something came across, you had to replace the refrigerator or something like that, to kind of even it out until we really understand how much it does cost us to live.
And Kay, when you said your pension of $2,100 a month, when would that crank in? At what timing is this?
62.
62. Okay. And Eric's state pension, was that also a 60 or 62, or is that a now?
It's a 62.
Okay, we'll get back to Kay and Eric in just a minute. It's the Jill on Money Show. Just go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and we'll answer your question. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's the Jill on Money Show, and we are here trying to help you make better financial decisions. Not the best, better. That's all. It's a pretty low bar. Many of us make dumb mistakes. I wrote a whole book about that. My new book is coming out just in days, so be sure to pre-order it. It's called The Great Money Reset, and if you go to JillOnMoney.com and you pre-order the book, you will be invited to the first ever Jill on Money webinar. We'd love to have you. Anyway, let's get back to our conversation with Kay and Eric. Eric, what is your ideal when you think about it? Like, is it 60? What's your really like in your heart? Pretend she's not sitting there next to you.
In my heart, I can go as soon as 3 years and 10 months, but it's very punitive. And I don't like the idea that if I leave early, that they permanently reduce your pension. Then I would be first eligible in 20 years. So to answer your specific question, I like running the numbers at making it to age 57 when I would be eligible for a somewhat reduced pension. That's the first number we gave you. So in my heart, I probably will go to 60 just because I can't stand to leave that much money on the table.
Me too. That and I of course don't have to do your work, but I felt the same way when you gave me the 1,500 to 3,000. And Mark, I'm sure, was feeling that way. Now, the other thing is though, I mean, if it's 60, then you're kind of stuck where you are for 6 more years. Kay, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. Like, as long as you're doing your thing, like you do you do you, Eric. I'm going to go find myself in my fine environment, right?
She's worked harder than me. She out-earns me for the vast bulk of her career, so I defer to her.
Okay, so let's just do this like how we can try to do it. Let's say you're going to work for another year, okay? So now, Kay, you're 55 and you're done working at this current job. Whatever you do next, are you going to go on a Buddhist retreat for 5 years, or do you think you'll make some money? Those are the only choices you have.
No, I'll make some money.
What's the least amount of money you could imagine making from, say, 55 to 60? Like, how much a year would you say, like, oh, this is like a slam dunk. I can make blank a year.
75.
What if I even say 60? I'm just going to say 60 for the hell of it. I don't want any pressure on you. Now, Eric's still making his 175, right? From 55 to 60.
God willing.
Right. You can cover your needs. You can get your kids through school. You're like done, right? So essentially what we're saying, from 55 to 60, you got plenty of money. You can float your needs. You can keep stockpiling some money. There's no debt to pay down. But the pressure's off you, Kay, at this point, and you can do what you want, and everything is fine. And you don't even have to worry about putting money into the retirement account. I mean, the $2.5 million that you guys have socked away, I presume it's pre-tax, right?
Yeah, we only have $350 in a Roth, so the rest of it's pre-tax.
Okay. So then, Mark, let's work this through. Is a conversion worth it, or should we just start pulling money out of these accounts to live on from age, say, 60 to 70?
That's what I would do. Yeah, they got about, they're going to have, well, who knows, it may even go higher, but they're going to have a lot of years to pull money out and reduce those RMDs.
Yeah. So what we're talking, like, there is a case to be made that you should convert. Okay. It's just that it soaks up the money that's in that brokerage account. We got to spend your money down. I don't know if you're going to feel great about that. I don't feel so great about that because I don't know where you're really going to land. So that would then mean, of the $2 million or so, more than $2 million that's pre-tax. I think what I would suggest is that in a year, UK, whatever you make, you're not putting any more money into retirement. I'm not even so sure. Should Eric put money into a pre-tax retirement account, Mark?
Pre-tax? No.
I don't think so either. I think we have to stop with your pre-tax stuff. I think that what happens is that for the years of 55 to 60, you guys this is, again, we don't know what's happening tax law wise, but let's pretend everything is the same. Live as you live from 55 to 60 with no pressure on putting money into your retirement accounts. I would instead pay whatever taxes due and pop it in the brokerage account. Or if you wanted to put some money away, put it in the Roth, okay? And just make that Roth. Now, from age 60 to 62, right? Because we haven't started receiving any pensions, or actually I should say that your Eric's pension starts at 60. So then we have $3,000 a month from 60 to 62. And then you fund the difference by pulling money out of your retirement accounts to live on and pay the tax along the way. This is going to be so hard for you guys. I'll tell you why, because you're the types of people that know how to put money in. You don't know how to take money out.
This is true.
Right? We're going to have to set it up so that, let's just pretend it's like the beginning of your 60th year, right? You're 59, 60 years old. You look at your retirement accounts, your pre-tax accounts, and we know that you need, let's say you need $7,000 net out of that, in addition to your $3,000 a month from Eric's pension. Okay. So we're going to probably need to have you take about, let's call it 120 grand in your retirement accounts and put it in cash. And you're going to set something up at the beginning of the year, and you're going to say 10 grand a month is coming out of this account and going into our checking accounts. You're going to make it an automatic transfer, and you're going to treat it like it's income to you, like you pretend you're going to say, oh, I'm just paying myself. This is great. You're going to turn your retirement account into an annuity. If I have to rely on you to just pull the money out when you need it, you won't spend the money. And that's not good. That's not the whole point of this. The point is that you have built this huge cash account. It's sitting in the ATM. And all we're doing is automatically making sure it comes to you so you can spend it and have money and have fun. You'll have 3 grand a month that's taxable. You'll take 10 grand from the retirement account a month. You make sure that money is in cash. You probably want 2 years. You're probably going to need, at the beginning of your year that you turn 60, you are going to need to have like probably 250 grand in cash. You want 2 years in cash so you have it, or maybe a year. It's really up to you. I just need to make sure you take that money out. And every year you are going to make sure you pull money out of this account. And the amount will change when you're 62 and those 2 other pensions come into play. And you're going to reduce that amount. But basically between age 60 and 70, you're going to use the money that's in the pre-tax account to live on. You're going to pay the tax that's due. And that's it. And you're going to claim your Social Security when you're 70. And we leave the option to come back and have you guys come back on the air if something changes, like tax brackets change or your plans change. Anything that changes, we're here for you. But this is so perfect. You can do this. There is nothing here that scares me about where you are. What scares you guys?
Actually, I feel so much better just listening to you lay out the process, because I can follow the directions.
Uh-huh.
That makes me feel a lot better. And now we have a plan, and I feel like a weight has lifted. Thank you.
Mark, I'm a dream maker today. Eric, what scares you?
It's great to talk to you. I did want to ask one slight detailed question. You said no longer contribute to the retirement accounts. We'd still like to get the company match and not.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Now, a few other odds and ends. Okay. Number one, do you guys have your estate documents in place? Because I know you're 2 lawyers, which probably means no.
No, we do actually.
All right, good. Excellent. And do you have any old life insurance policies floating around?
No.
Okay.
We have term life.
Good. And do you have any other kind of outstanding financial stuff, anything that's floating around that you feel like we should take a look at for you right now?
No, we're very blessed to be debt free.
I feel good about this. Mark, am I missing anything?
No, what a story. My goodness.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. I honestly feel like you are the dream for people on our program, because I don't know, I sort of feel like in many cases you guys make a lot of money and you are in a low cost area. So that's true, but you've diligently socked it away. You don't live in a $2 million house, which is helpful, right? I feel like there's going to be a real option for you to do something exciting in this next move. Kay, let us know what you decide to do next. This is very exciting for us, and we're excited for you. So congratulations. You really have bought yourself a lot of opportunity. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you would like to join us on the program, just go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and complete the form. We'll do everything else. Jill on Money will be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and I've been talking to a lot of people recently about how to find a good financial planner and what to do and all the steps that are necessary. And if you find yourself wondering whether the person you're working with is worth it, or maybe you're trying to interview new folks, we would love for you to check out our sponsor, Facet Wealth. Now, I mean, I think you still have to be armed with lots of questions, and we've got great resources on our website so you can see the questions you should ask before you hire a financial advisor or planner. But if you are thinking about this, if you want to check out sponsor Facet Wealth, here's what you'll need to know. This is a place where you can get personalized, jargon-free advice for everything money impacts in your life. And Facet Wealth folks are going to help you execute your plan. They've got certified financial planners, which means they've got to put your best interest first. And if you would like, you can visit cbsaudio.com/Jill for 2 months free off your first year of financial planning with Facet Wealth. So check it out. Right now, we're going to talk to Barry from Connecticut. Hi, Barry. What's going on? How can we help you out?
Hi, Jill. Hi, Mark. It's so nice to be speaking with you both.
We are happy to have you.
So my wife and I are both working. I'm 71, just turned 71. My wife is 66. I'm collecting my full retirement, Social Security, while I'm working. I work from home, which has made it a lot easier for me, not having to, schlep into New York by train every day. So that's made my job more manageable. I mean, do I love my job? It's okay. Some days are better than others. Mm-hmm. My wife's a hygienist. We have saved, a decent amount of money, but we know that it's not enough to last for how many years we have left after we retire from work.
Okay.
Ideally, I'm 71. I'll be 72 next year. I mean, if I had my druthers, I think I would like to retire at the end of next year. But my wife keeps saying to me, why put a time limit on it? If you're healthy and the company wants you, why not continue? And, you enjoy your job well enough. She's a hygienist. As I said, she's 66. She'll be 67 next year. She's prepared to continue to work as well. So I guess the question really is, how much longer do we really need to work? Or should we just keep going and going until
you die? She dies with one of those horrible instruments in her hand that inflicts pain. Like, yeah. Oh, sorry, Jill, whack right down on that gum. How much do you guys make?
So I make about 110 gross. My wife makes about 60,000 gross. Okay. But as I said before, I'm collecting my Social Security now. It's been pretty easy for us since I've collected Social Security, which is about a year now. Because we have more than enough money to pay our daily or weekly or monthly expenses, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And have some money left over. So that's nice.
How much are you collecting in Social Security?
After it's the taxes and after the Medicare is deducted, it's about $2,800.
Okay, that's good. So what's happening to that money right now when you don't need it? Are you stockpiling it, putting it in cash?
Yes and no. So I am stockpiling it. We did pay off our debt. We had credit card debt. So except for maybe like $1,000 or $2,000 at the most, we're debt free. Of course, we have a mortgage. So I have been stockpiling it, though we did go on a fairly expensive vacation this past summer. So, some of it was used toward that. So, the short answer is, Jill, yes. As long as I'm working and collecting Social Security, that money will be stockpiled. I also contribute to my 401k at work at the full 26%. And I'm able to do that now primarily because I'm able, to collect Social Security. So that kind of.
Okay, but wait a second. Let's just go through some of the assets. So how much money have you saved in your retirement accounts? What do you have?
My wife has about 550 in hers. I have about 100 in mine. We're expecting about another 100 to 150 as a small inheritance to arrive sometime next year. The plan for that money was to just be emergency fund for the most part. I'm not looking to invest that, I don't think, at least in the stock market. So the short answer again is it would be about $750,000 we have saved to date.
Why don't you have as much? What's going on with your retirement account? Why do you only have $100,000? Like, you've been working a long time, so what's been happening?
I was afraid you might get to that. Well, I mean, it's only been recently, really since Social Security, that I went to the full deduction amount. At the 26%.
Yeah.
We really needed the money for living expenses. So and actually I did dip into it a couple of times here and there over the years. So.
You got some kids that were eating this up?
Yeah, we got some kids, right? Our kids are fully grown and out of the house now. So I never seem to have been able to make enough money to pay for all of our expenses, or maybe we're living higher than we should have.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, hang on a second. I'm pretty sure that's the source of this. So let me just go back in time for a second. The credit card debt that you said paid off, but there is actually still a credit card balance of what? You said $1 or $2,000?
At the most.
Okay. And the house is worth how much?
The house is worth about $400,000. We have about $180,000 left on it. We have a 3.3% mortgage.
And you're going to stay there?
Yeah, we're not right. We
Okay.
love it here, and we don't find that the expenses as far as living here are that exorbitant.
Okay. So now if you don't have the inheritance yet, but is there any money that's in cash right now or not?
Not really. I mean, my wife has a 401k. She's got some money in cash there, but we really don't want to pull that money out.
No. So you said your wife has $550,000 in her retirement account. You have $100,000 in your retirement account, right?
One more 100, Jill. I'm sorry. One more 100 that's in stocks that's in my wife's name.
Is that a non-retirement account?
Yes, that's non-retirement. Yes.
And what is that, inheritance?
No, that's, actually it was inheritance, but it's invested in a number of different stocks.
Okay, here's a good news. That makes me feel a little better. Okay, so when do you think the inheritance is really coming?
The first quarter of next year.
So that's going to happen. You're going to keep it in cash. Let's say it's $100,000 that's in cash. That's good. Very good. We're not touching that. Of course, as soon as that money comes in, just pay off that debt, the credit card debt. Do you have an auto loan out there or anything like that?
No auto loans.
Okay. Now, once the debt's paid off, now what your goal is, we've got to get you to track how much money you're really spending. That's really the issue. We'll get back to Barry in just a minute. It's Jill on Money.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Let's get back to Barry from Connecticut, who is wondering how much longer he has to work. You say the house is affordable. You've got a cheap mortgage. What is it do we think is the source of the high expenses? Like, what do we really think you're spending?
So, soup to nuts, $63,000 that's costing us a year.
What about like trips and fun things like that?
Well, if we go on vacation, we would spend about $5,000 or so. But that's
not part of the 63, or that is part of the 63.
No, that's just to get by.
Okay, so your actual nut is 63, and then how much money beyond that are you spending on other stuff? That's my big question.
I understand. To be honest, which is what I'm trying to do, we have been a little frivolous at times. We tend to eat out a bit. We buy clothes a bit. We don't think twice really so much about gifts.
Okay.
But if I had to put a number to it, in addition to the $63,000, I would say, not counting like vacation, which is more expensive, and that's that would only happen once a year or every couple of years, let's say. I would say maybe another $2,000 to $3,000 would be more than enough to cover things like some clothes and some eating out and gifts.
You're saying a month, so you're saying to me that you need $100,000 to live your life right now, basically. So here's the issue. We got $100,000 of need, and you only have $34,000. You have $34,000 Social Security. What's your wife's Social Security future benefit?
My wife next year, after taxes, because I backed out the taxes, I would have about $2,800 after taxes and Medicare. She would have about $2,400 after Medicare and taxes.
Okay. So here's the good news. You have 2/3 of your income need generating through Social Security. That's
Correct.
your good news. Okay. The bad news is you don't have that much money saved. So I think a couple of things. One is, I think that you really could probably tighten up your budget a little bit, because remember one thing about the Social Security, it's taxable, right? So that money will come in eventually. It will be taxable. What we're talking about is a $100,000 net need. Someone might look at this and say, well, you have $650,000 in retirement. You'll just use some money from that, but you have to pay tax on that also. So I'm thinking your wife might be right that if you can still work, it might be good for you to work. Because I would be interested in finding out, for example, what would happen if your wife did not take Social Security. If she could work until 70, what would happen if she could take Social Security at age 70? What would her benefit be? If you didn't have the inheritance coming, I would say stop putting money into your 401k. I do think what might be interesting would be to stop putting money in your 401k to just see if you can live off of your salary. You guys don't have to put so much money into retirement. You have to get your spending under control. Seems to me what's off a bit. That, we make $170,000 when we need $100,000 to live. You're kind of breaking even, right? That's why you don't have as much money in retirement as one would hope at this point. But again, you're so lucky in that you have a job. I mean, there's a lot of people who are 71 saying like, oh God, I wish I had that job still, right? Now, it sucks because I'm saying you're 71, you have to keep working. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying there's two parts of this equation. There's money coming in, there's money going out. So if you said to me, you know what, Jill, I tell you what, we need 63. But instead of $3,000 a month, I'm really going to try to see if we can live the extras. We can cut those down. We're really going to start this is what I would do. I would start to say, let's do $2,000 a month and see how we do. And then let's see if we can get to $1,500 a month. If you can make those extras more like $1,500 a month and your nut is 63,000, then we start to line up a little better. And it sounds like your wife is kind of willing to work. And if that's the case, I would totally have her work until she was 70 because that Social Security benefit's going to jump up for her. It really is. And that would be quite helpful. It'd be kind of cool if all of a sudden, instead of having $64,000 a year coming in, that like, wow, it's like 72. And then you're just using your portfolio sort of like for extras. That would be good to me. The stock thing, I don't know, like who's managing that? Is that just a bunch of stocks sitting there? Have you gotten hammered? Do you care about it? Is it time to like actually just throw that into some index funds?
Yeah, well, I think the time is coming where we would want to put it in index funds, and we really could use some help with that. But as far as what their investments are in now, yes, there are a bunch of stocks. They've done well, as most stocks have done over the last number of years. But again, as of a lot of stocks the past year have done, they've done poorly.
Right.
So we did get hammered by the tune of about 20%. We could use some help with an advisor in terms of how to best preserve as much as we can, with regard to the stocks we're currently invested in.
I got you. And maybe just an advisor to help you with this retirement planning. You sound like you're a smart guy and a smart wife. You kind of got your heads on straight. You know what the issue is, which is we spend a little bit more money than we should. I get it. It's okay. You got there. And as I said, thank goodness you actually have the wherewithal to continue working. It's huge, frankly, that you have that. But now, before there is some sort of strange calamity, and I'm not going to say there's like a real calamity, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want you to run out of money when you're 83. That would suck. It seems to me that you are actually, I don't know, like that you're actually at a point where you can make a change and take yourself out of a potentially dangerous situation. If you, like Barry, would like to join us on the air, just go to JillOnMoney.com and click the Contact Us button. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are here answering financial questions for you. If you have something on your mind, don't sit and stew. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and we would love to get you on the air live with us. We're also happy to read your email, and that's what we're going to do. This is from Steve, who says, we've been fortunate earners and savers and have retired with about, cue the hate mail, Mark, with about $9 million in savings and investments. We've mostly managed our money on our own, but started engaging with a few advisory firms to see if they have any better ideas. As part of their sales pitch, one firm stressed that people with our net worth almost always use large brokerage houses and that we would be better off with individual stocks instead of the Vanguard index funds, which we have been reliably using all along. We are dubious. As an FYI, we're 62 and 65 years old. Steve, I too am dubious. And I think that it is a vast overstatement to say that someone with your net worth almost always uses a brokerage house. I don't think that's true at all. There really is no evidence that individual stocks are better to own when you have that level of net worth. And really, maybe it's just about managing tax liability, but then say that. And you can manage tax liability by selling shares of index funds. So, I mean, I think I'd be more impressed if they said, well, we would provide you a sophisticated level of financial planning for the fee, but I'd go to the next one if I were you. Now, also, Steve, I so appreciate your last part of your email, which says the following. We're pre-ordering your book, so tell George to calm down. That's because I had complained that George, who is my publisher, was bummed out that I hadn't had big enough pre-orders on the Great Money Reset. So go ahead and pre-order the book, just like Steve. And maybe Steve doesn't have to buy 9 million copies, but a few extra would be nice. Anyway, if you've got a financial question, give us a shout. JillOnMoney.com is the website. You can pre-order the book there as well, and we'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Jill on Money show, and I've got something special for you this hour. We are giving you a special sneak peek at the new book, The Great Money Reset. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. This is actually from the audio recording. I had to sit in a booth with my hands still and read the book. So for this hour, you're going to get a little quick snippet into the beginning of The Great Money Reset. And hopefully, if you like it, you'll pre-order the book. You can do that at JillOnMoney.com. And when you pre-order the book, you will be invited to a free webinar. It's our first ever live webinar. So throughout the next hour, here comes me. It doesn't sound like me because I sound very kind of restrained because they don't want you to make a sound and they don't want you to move around. It was very hard for me, I have to be honest. So let's begin The Great Money Reset. This is the first chapter of the book. So here we go. Take a good, hard look. If you're contemplating a big change, don't just jump into it. Stop and map out the money ramifications. This chapter shows you how to take stock of your present finances and your future needs so that you can anticipate gaps and figure out how to fill them. In my informal discussions with listeners who either contemplated or executed a great money reset, I found that the decision to shake up their lives didn't come as a sudden seismic shift. Rather, as we saw with Melissa, most of my listeners had been moving in that direction for some time, only to find that the pandemic or some other major life event dramatically accelerated their movement and heightened their sense of urgency. Take Ross, a caller in his mid-50s from Texas. Ross had built a long career in corporate America, but the last couple of years at his company had left him burnt out. It's funny how 3 reorgs and numerous downsizing announcements will do that to a person. Ross yearned to say sayonara to the corporate world and try something completely different. His idea wasn't to quit, but rather to collect his nice end-of-year bonus once more and then retire from the company. Afterward, he'd figure out his next move. As Ross told me, he didn't harbor much ambivalence about shaking up his life. He couldn't wait to escape what he regarded as the corporate prison. But before he blew up the status quo, he did want to take a careful look at his finances. Ross had a little less than a decade to go before his planned retirement at age 65. With his wife working part-time, he was his family's primary source of income. He and his wife had 3 children. The older 2 were grown and financially independent, but their youngest was still in college and would require support for another few years. Although Ross anticipated that he would continue to work in some capacity, he likely wouldn't command the same salary he had received at his big company. Would he later come to regret his move away from corporate America, or was he secure enough money-wise to take his career in a different direction? What could he do to limit the negative financial consequences of his decision? If you're envisioning a great money reset, take a good, hard look at your finances before you leap. Most people know to do this, but their analysis often isn't rigorous or comprehensive enough. They also make the mistake of thinking they face an either-or situation. Either they make a change or they stay put. In reality, we can often make less dramatic but still satisfying moves if our finances render a wholesale change overly risky, or if the changes required to make possible our next endeavor just seem too big. When I transitioned from working as a financial planner in quirky little Providence to an on-air financial expert in the Big Apple, my dear friend Maureen, who makes me look like a slacker when it comes to career, financial, and life planning, urged me to get a pink notebook. This was a special journal that I would use to capture my thinking and planning about my future. I would lay out my various career or life options, record any insights I gleaned while researching them, take copious notes during the many consultations I'd have with people throughout the process, and, of course, work out all of my financial plans. As I discovered, having a pink notebook was a game changer because it kept me organized, focused, and motivated as I went through the unpredictable twists and turns of figuring out my next move. Call to action. Get yourself a pink notebook. And no, it doesn't have to be pink. Once you have a notebook in your chosen color at hand, the question becomes how precisely to fill it. I won't go into all the research and exploration you might want to do if you don't quite know your future path yet and need to figure it out. But I do, of course, have a thing or two to say about the money calculations and the scenario planning that belong in any pink notebook worthy of the name. Run through the Fabulous 5. A proper analysis of your current financial position isn't terribly complicated. It unfolds along the lines of the financial planning process generally. I like to think about it in terms of a series of steps that I call the Fabulous 5. Step number 1, calculate the resources at your disposal. Your current income and assets. How much do you have coming in right now? If you're employed, include not just your salary, but also your annual bonus and any commissions you might earn. How much savings do you currently have? Consider the full range of assets, including retirement and non-retirement accounts, your primary residence if you own one, any investment properties you own, your emergency fund, and so on. Don't forget about the value of tax-preferenced flexible spending and dependent care accounts. Once you've tallied all of your assets, ask yourself which of them are liquid, which means you can convert them easily to cash without any lag time or without creating a major tax burden. When you're going through a transition, much will be unknown, and you might need more cash than you think to cover expenses you never could have predicted, to maintain a lifestyle to which you've become accustomed, or simply to provide yourself with the peace of mind that only an ample safety net can provide. You might also need cash to cover expenses that many people neglect to consider. If you're leaving a stable, well-paying job for one that is more precarious, you might need to cover the costs of your own health care, life insurance, long-term disability insurance, and other benefits that your employer once subsidized. I don't think most people realize just how much health insurance costs. A healthy couple with no kids might easily spend $12,000 to $15,000 or more a year on a decent plan. If you have dependent children, that number could be even greater. People working in the public sector often have unusually generous benefits packages that they'll miss if they leave their jobs. On this basis alone, you might need more cash than you think to make a successful transition. On the other hand, if you're in the private sector and thinking about taking a pay cut to work in a lower-stress public sector job, you might be in for a pleasant surprise. Although the pay might be lower, the value of the benefits you'll receive might make up for it.
Okay, we're going to have more of the Great Money Reset just around the corner. If you've got a financial question, we are answering financial questions too. Don't worry. We'll get back to you. Promise. Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And for this hour, I am providing you with a little sneak peek at my new book. It comes out on January 24th, so very soon, just a few days. And if you would like to pre-order that book after you get a nice listen here, just go to the website jillonmoney.com and all the information's right there. Okay, let's get back into the Great Money Reset.
If you're nearing retirement, more cash on hand will allow you to avoid tapping into retirement funds. In some situations, of course, you might well want to tap those precious funds. For example, if you plan to leave a job and greatly reduce your income, and you aren't yet ready to claim Social Security retirement benefits, it might be the ideal time to withdraw pre-tax retirement funds, since you'd likely be taxed at a lower bracket than you currently are now or will be in the future. More on this in Chapter 5. During times of transition, having more cash helps us fight mounting anxiety better than a therapist, a drink, or a Klonopin ever could. Cash is the salve to the dreaded what-ifs. What if your health worsens 5 or 10 years from now and you suddenly must shoulder greater health care costs or can't bring in as much income as you'd presumed? What if your new business fails? What if it takes longer than you expect to figure out your next endeavor? Stuff happens, and you want to plan for it. With cash on hand, you can worry less because you have resources at your disposal if you need them. Less worry is a good thing, right? If many of your assets aren't liquid and you think you could use an additional cash buffer, ask yourself whether you might be able to liquidate some of those assets, say by selling a second home you don't use very much. But be sure to consider the tax liabilities you might face, such as capital gains, when making such decisions. Step number 2, calculate your debt and other liabilities. How much do you currently owe? Consider the full range of debt, including mortgages, lines of credit that you have established or drawn down, credit cards, car loans, educational loans for your kids you might be paying off. Didn't I tell you not to take on these loans in my previous book? Tax liabilities, and so on. If you do have significant mortgage debt remaining, you might not want to pay that off before making a change, as you'll lose some of your precious liquidity, and in particular, money that has already been taxed. If you're in your mid-50s, you might think that because you have $2 million in your 401k and a house worth $1 million with a paid-off mortgage, you're in an excellent position to retire early. Not so fast. Yes, you might not be saddled with mountains of debt, but if you don't have a strong cash reserve to draw on, you might later find yourself in a precarious position. Consider, too, that your retirement savings, once you draw on them, might not go as far as you think. If you've held these savings in traditional accounts, they haven't yet been taxed, and rest assured, they will be. I often advise people who have even an inkling that they want to retire early or leave a well-paying job that they should start socking away non-retirement savings to the extent they can, even if it means not paying down outstanding debt as quickly. Step number 3, consider your housing situation. You've already calculated the value of your home on today's market. Think, too, about the cost of maintaining that home. In making a big change to your career, would you also want to consider downsizing your house or renting instead of owning to reduce your expenses and free up more cash? As of this writing, the real estate market is hot. If that's the case in your area, would you be missing an opportunity by not selling? Some people, I find, become overly attached to their homes. They talk about owning a forever home and feel reluctant to sell it, even if doing so might make sense given their changing circumstances. Listen, nothing is forever, okay? Certainly a home isn't. Spending money now to fund that forever home, including real estate taxes, maintenance, usually about 1 to 3% of the value of the home annually, depending on its age and condition, utility bills, and so on, essentially means borrowing money or drawing on funds you might otherwise have saved. Month by month, you're converting liquid assets into an illiquid one. If you're someone whose life is in flux, whether because of COVID, a divorce, the death of a spouse, or some other big life change, I don't love that choice. If you do want to stay put, check out your mortgage. If your rate is higher than prevailing rates, or you have a variable, adjustable rate, or interest-only loan, you may want to refinance it before you make big changes. Remember, you might not be able to qualify once your income is reduced. You also may want to establish, but not draw down, a home equity line of credit while you still look like a good bet to the bank. Step number 4, consider your spending habits. I'll have more to say about this in a later chapter, but for now, jot down your monthly expenses. How much do you currently spend on food, entertainment, transportation, clothing, and so on? Do you really need all that stuff? Do you expect your monthly expenses to decrease after you make a big change in your life, perhaps because you've moved to a city with a lower cost of living? If you're quitting your job or changing careers and expect a cut in income, are you willing to make changes to your spending habits to make your finances work? One of the biggest mistakes people make when taking stock of their finances in preparation for a big change is to underestimate their future spending needs. It's easy to think that you could live on less than you currently do, but could you really? Will you be happy? It's best to err on the side of caution and peg your estimates closely to what you're currently spending. Relatedly, many people nearing retirement age underestimate how long they're likely to live past retirement, and thus how much money they'll need. As a 55-year-old, you might focus on the fact that you've already worked for 30-plus years. As your trusty Aunt Jill, I'm focused on the fact that you still could live for 40 more years. If you plan to retire early or downshift your career, you had better make sure that your retirement savings and all other sources of income will last that long. A retirement plan that relies on your early death might work in terms of dollars and cents, but it's hardly appealing. Step number 5, consider obligations you might have to others. Are you responsible for your kids' college expenses? What about your aging parents' nursing home expenses? Is your spouse ailing and in need of ongoing care? Is a sibling of yours perennially in financial trouble? Let's jot those down in your handy pink notebook. Consider, too, whether these expenses will likely remain stable or increase. Be conservative in your estimates. Your aging parents might be a bit more fragile physically than you think, especially in an age of COVID. With more kids in their 20s or 30s moving back home, you might have unexpected costs cropping up there as well. Consider, too, that your priorities might be changing. Perhaps you won't want to live as far from your parents, your siblings, or your children as you once did. Perhaps you'll want to help your kids out and assume more responsibility for raising your grandchildren or funding their care. Will your kids ask you to chip in for your grandchildren's daycare or private school to make their lives easier? And if they ask, will you feel tempted to say yes? Factor all of this into your calculations.
Do you like what you hear? If so, go to JillOnMoney.com and you can pre-order my book. It's called The Great Money Reset. It's coming out in just a couple of days, so hurry up. Quick. Jill on Money, the radio show. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and I'm giving you, or we're giving you, Mark and I are giving you a little taste of my new book, which comes out in just a few days, The Great Money Reset. We're giving you a taste of that. This is the audio version of the book. We're in the first chapter. We've talked about taking a good hard look at how you assess your financial condition, and also we talk about the next steps you need to take. And in this segment, we're talking about how you can't just stop at your plan A. You have to have a little A, B, C. You got to have a lot of contingencies, right? So here is more of The Great Money Reset.
Don't stop at plan A. Now that the relevant numbers are inscribed for eternity in your pink notebook, your next step is to assess the change you're thinking of making. How will it affect each of the big five over the next 3 years at least, and over the longer term, 5 years, 10 years, and beyond? Will you need to blow through a sizable portion of your assets? Will your annual income rise, thanks to a pension you might receive, for instance, or fall because your salary will be lower or non-existent? Will you assume more debt or aggressively pay it down? Will your monthly living expenses, including housing, rise? Or will you find ways to cut back? What about changes in your obligations to others? It's usually difficult, if not impossible, to predict the future with any accuracy. That's why I strongly recommend that you plan for 3 different scenarios: best case, middling, and worst case. As a former pessimistic trader and supreme worrier, I usually start with the worst case, but you do you. Let's take as an example the shift I was pondering during the Great Recession. Sell my home, move to a different city, embark on a new career. In a worst-case scenario, my big change would flop. I wouldn't be able to find work as an on-air media maven covering all things financial. My girlfriend would get sick of me and throw me out on the street, causing my housing and other expenses to be double what I'd expected or more. And although my family lived in New York City, maybe I would hate living there again after a decade away and wish I'd never returned. In a middling scenario, things would sort of work out for me. Yes, I would make a successful career transition, but the money would not be what I'd hoped. Or it would take me a lot longer to make the transition, or the work would be intermittent and unpredictable. My girlfriend would decide to put up with me, but maybe we would require more space because, as you can imagine, I take up a lot of space. As a result, my housing costs might perhaps run 10 or 20% more than I expected. My parents or someone else in my family might suffer a health setback, requiring me to take time off from my fledgling career and limiting my earnings. I might not love my new career, but it might not be terrible either. In a best-case scenario, everything would work out as I'd hoped. I'd very quickly find work in the media industry, making what I thought I'd make. My girlfriend and I would remain in the apartment, and I would love my new life. Before I made my big move, I took each of these scenarios into account. Running through my numbers, I determined that my intended change was in fact realistic given my current financial situation. If the middle case scenario came to pass, I'd also be fine money-wise with no major adjustments on my part. No, I wouldn't be thrilled working at a career that I didn't utterly love for a less than ideal paycheck, but I knew that I could do it and still be happy and comfortable enough for an extended period, given the resources at my disposal. If the worst-case scenario came to pass, I would activate my Plan B. From my own research and experience, I knew that I could always work again as a financial planner and money manager, either joining a firm and taking a salary or going off on my own. In either case, I wouldn't be thrilled on a personal level, but I would be making a very good living. And if for some reason I couldn't find work as a financial planner, I knew that I could always go into sales of some kind. Call this Plan C. Cars, software, hardware, didn't matter because I knew that I could sell it and make enough to support myself in New York City or elsewhere if I had to. Sometimes smaller is better than going big. As I mentioned earlier, and as this analysis of my options suggests, deciding what to do with your life need not amount to an either-or choice. Almost always you can find intermediate options that might be appropriate if your best-case scenario doesn't pan out, or if your financial situation doesn't permit you to move toward your dreams all at once. Even if your financial situation is relatively strong, I invite you to consider incremental steps you might take toward achieving your dreams as you envision future scenarios. If you hate your job and feel tempted to retire early, maybe you could make a lateral move instead, finding work in a different industry. Maybe you could move to a different firm in your present industry. Maybe you could find a different job in your current company or negotiate a different work arrangement in your current job that would allow you to fulfill at least some of your needs. If you imagine going back to school, maybe you don't have to quit and enroll full-time at great expense to get your degree. Maybe you could take night classes or arrange a semester-long leave of absence from work. If you imagine taking some time off to find yourself and figure out what would really make you happy, maybe you only take a limited time away, like a gap year. In fact, definitely give yourself a deadline, or you might find that a year turns into 2, turns into 3. If a full year isn't realistic given your finances, maybe you only take 6 months or 3. Each of these alternative pathways might have financial ramifications that are less extreme and more manageable than those resulting from a full-blown money reset.
Okay, if you like what you're hearing about the Great Money Reset and you want to be part of it, just go to the website, JillOnMoney.com. That's our website. And you can click on the pre-order the book. And if you have a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. JillOnMoney.com is happy to also sport a beautiful Contact Us button. When you click that button, there's a form that pops up, and if you'd like to join us on the air, then you just click the box at the very end of the form. Otherwise, we'll get to you. We'll read it. But if you want to come on the air live, it's so much fun. Okay, Jill on Money, and we'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are providing you with a little audio excerpt of my new book called The Great Money Reset. And when you are contemplating a big money reset, I'm kind of guiding you through here, giving you a framework of what you need to consider. But if you want to work with somebody to do that, you can. And if that means you're looking for financial planners out in the universe, we encourage you to check out one of our great sponsors, Facet Wealth. Facet Wealth really does believe that financial planning should be accessible to people who have a lot of money to invest, but maybe people who just have a lot of issues and a lot of questions. You don't have to have tons of money to use their services. So if you would like to learn more, visit cbsaudio.com/Jill for 2 months free off your first year of financial planning at Facet Wealth. Check it out. Right now, we're turning back to the little audio excerpt of the book, The Great Money Reset. Check it out. Incremental steps have the added benefit of allowing you to dabble in your dreams and see how you feel. Maybe incremental steps will be enough to satisfy you, or maybe not. Melissa, from the introduction, didn't just leap into taking 6 months or more off to travel and find herself. She first took a month-long leave of absence from work. Only when that didn't satisfy her did she understand that she really did need to take a bigger risk. We often don't know what we want as well as we think we do. When Linda from Philadelphia left a well-paying but demanding job in sales in 2019, she was eager to pursue her long-standing dream of working full-time as an actress. She had done some acting in her 20s, and now, at age 66, was prepared to put it all out there again. Auditioning for several roles in theatrical productions, she discovered that directors weren't eager to hire someone who had taken a 40-year hiatus from the profession. Even more interesting, she didn't really like the theater as much as she imagined she would. "I guess the dream changed," she said. Linda wound up auditioning to record audiobooks. In March 2020, she got her first assignment. 18 months later, she had recorded 23 books across genres. "It's been a blast," she said in an email. "I'm not a person who can not work, so this is perfect for me. I get to utilize my creativity. I've learned some audio engineering skills, and I'm reading fun, interesting books. Love that." Your plans might take you in wonderful and not so wonderful directions that you can't predict right now. Before you go all in, taking some smaller steps first might serve you well. Jamal, a 32-year-old from Portland, Oregon, discovered that he had become the go-to guy at his sports apparel company during the annual open enrollment period for benefits. Word got around that he wasn't just Jamal in tech, but the guy who was building spreadsheets to help his coworkers find the most affordable health plan and the least expensive investment options within the firm's 401k. When the pandemic hit, he helped some of his coworkers who were downsized roll over their retirement plans, and he also became somewhat of a lay expert in navigating COBRA. "I was basically becoming the in-house financial planner to my friends and colleagues," he told me. "So I started to investigate what it would mean to actually become a certified financial planner." Learning that the process can take a few years, he decided he wasn't ready to chuck a career at his present company just yet. So he committed to completing the coursework to sit for the CFP exam and began researching which firms in his area would let him intern while he remained employed. "Look, I still have student loans, so I can't bail on this job until I get my own financial house in order. But at least I have a plan of action that could help me one day become a full-time financial planner." Jamal had found a middle ground, one that would allow him to move ahead without unduly disrupting his present life or forcing him to assume too much risk. In contemplating and experimenting with less dramatic steps, consider what you really are seeking out of a change. If you dream of quitting your job, do you want to quit, or is your current boss the real problem. In the latter case, you might not need to quit. Simply transferring to another job elsewhere in your organization could do the trick. If you imagine leaving your city and moving out of state, maybe you don't have to make such a big move. Thinking about why the move sounds so appealing to you, maybe you'll find that it isn't the change of scenery per se that you crave, but simply the chance to live more cheaply. If that's the case, moving to a cheaper suburb a half hour away might serve as a good substitute, or at least an interim step toward something bigger. I beg you to ask these kinds of questions of yourself repeatedly, and to ask trusted friends, relatives, and counselors what they think as well. In many cases, our gripes about the present and our dreams about the future rest on hidden assumptions we're making that might not bear out. It would be a shame, and perhaps pose a serious problem, if we wound up blowing up our careers or our lives to solve a problem that didn't exist. Before you rush to take action, making decisions you can't easily reverse, home in on the real problem and solve for that.
Okay, just a little more of a taste before you have to go out and buy the book yourself. It's the Jill on Money Show, and we will be right back. You're back, and before we conclude the program, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this audio excerpt of my new book, The Great Money Reset. And I really do hope that you pre-order the book or order it whenever you can. All the information is on our website, JillOnMoney.com. And I'm really excited about this book because you guys really helped me create it. And that's a pretty amazing thing. So here is the rest of your little teaser of my book, The Great Money Reset.
Many of us somehow feel we lack permission to make a change. I hereby grant you that permission on one condition. Get your numbers straight. I don't know if a Great Money Reset or some lesser version of one is right for you, but you don't know it either unless you stop dreaming for a moment, sit your butt down, and do the math. Rock the reset. Take an honest look at your finances before you leap. Focus your analysis on the fabulous 5: resources, liabilities, housing situation, spending, outstanding obligations. Create best case, middling, and worst case scenarios for the future, and consider taking incremental steps rather than a single big leap.
Okay, that's it. That's the program for today. And thanks for indulging me, and thanks for listening. I hope you really did like your taste of the Great Money Reset. This reset could be yours as well. If you are seeking to make a really interesting move in your life, you probably need to think about your money too. That's why I wrote this book. It is inspired by you, all of you who've been asking me these questions for all these years. We'll be answering more of your financial questions next week, so just go on the website, JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and we'll get your note and get going. Our music is composed by Joel Goodman. Mark Talercio is our executive producer. Thank you so much for listening. Do something nice for someone else today. We'll talk to you next week.